So let us continue with our discussion, right? So we were discussing the process state transition diagram, right? So in which there are four states of the process is represented, and when the transition between those states take place, right? So I already explained this diagram, that is state transition diagram, right? So the same diagram we will see with the help of an example, right? The next one is process state transition in a time sharing system. In a time sharing system, in the sense that, let us say there are two processes P1 and P2, right? So all the time once the P1 is scheduled, the CPU will not be kept busy with P1. Let us say P1 takes more time to execute and P2 takes less time for execution. Then what happens? The CPU will be allocated to P1 only for a certain amount of time. So once that timestamp is over, once that certain time is over, then CPU will be released by the first process, and it will be given to second process P2, right? So on the rotational basis, the CPU will be allocated to P1 and P2, right? So that we will see with the help of a table, right? Let us say first at time t0, at 0th second or first second, you can say uh, remarks, that is P1 is scheduled. The first let us I'll represent it in the form of a queue. Okay, so the first process comes, P1 is a scheduler here. You just try to remember the diagram of round robin scheduling with time slicing, which is nothing but a time sharing system, which we discussed in a time sharing system class of an operating system. Okay, so here P1 is there at the queue head of the queue, and it is given to a scheduler for its execution. So once P1 is scheduled, the what is the status of the P1 here? Because CPU is allocated to, so scheduling means allocating CPU to that particular process, right? So once P1 is scheduled, what happens? What will be the state of P1? It is running, right? So initially it is ready, right? It was waiting for the CPU, right? So once the CPU is allocated to that P1, then its status will be changed from what? Its state will be changed from ready to running, right? So initially P1 is in running state, and let us say one more process P2, which is in ready state, right? So now CPU is allocated to P1, and P1 is in running state, and P2 is waiting for the CPU, right? So let us say after 10 seconds, after 10 seconds, P1 is preempted, because we are working with a time sharing system. A fair service needs to be given by the operating system to both the processes. So in such cases, after 10 seconds, P1 is preempted, means CPU is forcefully released from P1. So what happens now? The CPU will be given to the second process, which comes at the head of the queue, which is P2, right? And P1 is again kept back in a queue, because the execution of P1 is not at over, because its state is not came to a terminated state, right? So once P1 is preempted, so what is the remarks here? P2 is scheduled. Once P1 is preempted, this is the event. Once P1 is preempted, then the P2 will be scheduled, and the CPU will be allocated to P2, right? So now the state of the P2, which was in ready state, will be changed to running state, and P1 state was running state, then it has changed from running to block, not block, it is ready state, right? So P1 is in ready state, P2 is starts running, right? So let us say now again after 10 microsecond or whatever 10 seconds, right? So again P2 is preempted, and P1 is scheduled, right? And P2 execution is not at over, so again it will be kept in a queue. So P2 is preempted, that is the event, and what is the remarks? P1 is scheduled, right? So P1 is scheduled for certain amount of time again. Now P1 whose state was running ready state, and now it will become a running state, and P2's running state will become a ready state, right? So once after, let us say, P1 is executing. For P1 execution time is 25 seconds, right? So P1 requires 25 seconds for its execution, right? So first time it is allocated for 10 nanoseconds. Sorry, 10 seconds, right? So after 5 seconds it will start the IO operation. Let us say he wants to explain all process states with the help of two processes, okay, and in the time sharing system. Here P1 is in running state, P2 is in ready state, right? So after 5 seconds, what happens? P1 starts IO operation, right? So this example I have already explained in a time sharing class of an operating system, which is time sharing system, right? In which two processes I have taken, and I have explained when they start the IO operation and when they start or when they execute on central processor unit. Okay. So after 5 seconds, let us say P1 starts IO operation, right? So initial state of P1 was the last state of P1 was running state, right? Once it starts IO operation, means it is requesting for IO, its running state will be changed to a blocked state, right? So P2 is scheduled. Once P1 starts IO operation, P2 is scheduled. What is the state of the P1? It will be blocked, and P2 is now becomes running state. Now after 35 seconds, after 10 more seconds, P2 is preempted, right? But let us say P1 has not yet completed its IO operation, so again P1 is kept in a blocked state and P2 is in ready state, right? So why it is in ready state? Because it's a time, whatever time allocated for that particular process is over, right? And CPU is released from that particular process, and it will check, operating system will check whether any of the resource is in, any of the process is in ready state. If let us say one more process P3 is in ready state, then CPU will be allocated to that P3 process. If a memory doesn't contain any of the processes except these two processes, then CPU will be released from P2. Then the state of the process P2 is in block state. P1 is block state because it has not yet completed the IO operation, and P2 will become ready, and operating system will check the memory whether any of the process requires the CPU. If it doesn't find any of the process except these two, then again P2 is scheduled, because operating system doesn't find any of the processes in the system. Then P2 is scheduled. Again P1 is kept in a block state because it has not yet completed the IO operation, and P2 state will be a running state. And once the P2 starts IO operation, let us assume when the P2 starts IO operation, and let us assume the P1 the P1 finishes its IO operation, right? Whenever finishes its IO operation, right? So P1, let us say P1 has finished its IO operation and P2 has started IO operation. Then what happens? P2, whose last state was running, that will be changed to a block state, because now P2 is requesting for IO, and operating system will grant some resources to P2, right? So in such case, P1 has finished its IO operation. If it has finishes its IO operation, then it will be kept in a ready state, not a block state. If see what I am explaining, in a book, in a table, it was given a dash. That means P1 has not yet finished the IO operation. But now what I am assuming, P1 has finishes its operation. So once it finishes its operation, it will not be entered into a block state, right? Once it enters, which was in ready state, which was in block state before the completion of IO. P1 was in block state, right? So once the P1 finishes its IO operation, then it will be changed to block to ready state, right? So it must be ready when when the remark is P1 finishes its IO. If it is a dash, then P1 and P2 both will be kept in a block state, and the CPU will be allocated to some other process if operating system finds any of the process in a memory. Right? So once both the once the execution of P2 is over, P1 is not. P1 is in ready state, and it will be given to a CPU will be assigned to that particular P1, and P1 is in running state. So once the execution of the complete execution of this P1 occurs, then what happens? The state of the P1 will be changed from running to terminated state. Right? So I hope you understood this example, and how the process transition takes place, and what are the causes of process transitions. Right? So P1 has finished its execution, so state will be changed from running to terminate. Similarly, once the P2 finishes its IO operation, its state will be changed from block to ready, and if it doesn't, operating system doesn't find any of the process in the memory, then P2 is scheduled again, and once the execution of P2 is gets over, then its state will be changed from again state will be changed from running to terminated state. Right? So in this case, the operating system will handle the state transitions of these two processes, and it will make sure that both the processes are going to terminate without any error. Right? So if error occurs during execution, then forceful termination of those processes will be taken care by the operating system. Right? Next, we will be dealing with one more process, one more process state, which is a suspended process. Right? So here what I'll do, I'll explain the concept of suspended process, and I will finish this class, because I need to include one more state transition diagram in which the suspended process state needs to be included. So I missed here somehow, I don't know. Right? So in the next class, what I'll do, I'll explain the process of the concept of suspended process, and this particular state transition diagram. So this particular state transition diagram will be modified little, and we will include one more state there, which is a suspended process. Right? So we will be having two process states, which actually one is ready suspended, second one is block suspended. What are those? That we will discuss in the next class with the help of state transition diagram. But now in this class, I'll explain the concept of suspended process, and I'll wind up this class. Right? So what is a suspended process? Consider a process that was in a ready state, or a block state, when it got swapped out of the memory. Right? So when the suspending of these processes occur, when, let us say, operating system has a certain limited memory, let us assume it has a memory which can accommodate only two processes. In such case, if one more process comes, or two more processes come, then what happens? It has to swap, it has to take out one of the process from this memory, and it will make a space for a third process. Let us say operating system has only limited memory which can accommodate only two processes, P1 and P2. Right? So let us say one more process P3 comes. Right? So it has to check the frequent execution of these two processes. Let us say P2 is executed frequently after, let us say, 1 second. Right? And P1 is executed for, let us say, its frequency is very less compared to P2. In this case, operating system will decide which the process P1 needs to be replaced by one of the process, because it is process P2 is getting executed frequently, more frequently, and P1 is getting executed less frequently. In this case, P1 has to be replaced by some other process P3, right? So what happens once it is replaced by the operating system? How the memory will look like? Initially I had P2, right? So P2 is executed more frequently compared to P1. So P1 has to be replaced by P3, right? So now how memory will look like? It will look like it will be having two processes again, P2 and P3, right? So what happened to P1? What happened to P1? P1 is temporarily stored somewhere, right? So it is not actually stored in a memory from where the operating system will schedule the processes, right? So it will be stored in some of the secondary resource, secondary memory, you can say, right? So in such case, the process P1 is called as a suspended process, or the process of temporarily taking the processes out of the memory and will be stored in a secondary memory, right? So that process is called the swapping out of processes. Swapping out, right? Here this is called the swapping out of the processes, right? So what happens here? P1 is swapped with P3. P2 is remaining because it is more frequently getting executed on a central processor unit, and P1 is less frequently executed. So P1 is replaced by P3, right? So P1 is swapped out and P3 is swapped inside the memory. So this process is called swapping out of the processes. So such process P1 which is taken out from the memory is called a suspended process. So when it got swapped out of the memory, which process got swapped out of the memory is P1. So such process is called a suspended process. A process needs to be swapped back into a memory, right? So it is kept in a secondary memory. Let us say P1 is kept in a secondary memory. This is secondary memory, and let us say this is primary memory, right? So the process cannot be scheduled from the secondary memory, right? So it has to be brought back into the primary memory. From primary memory itself, the process needs to be scheduled, right? So again we have to operating system has to perform a swap in operation from with this P1 to bring that P1 from secondary memory to primary memory. Then only it can be scheduled by the operating system. The process needs to be swapped back into memory before it can resume its activity. To execute that particular process, the process P1 must be brought back into memory, right? Again we have to operating system has to perform a swap in operation. Hence it is no longer in a ready or a block state, right? So once it is swapped out from the primary memory, then I cannot call it as I cannot call the state of the process as a ready or a block state, right? The kernel must define a new state for it. We call such a process as a suspended process. So the kernel has to define one more state except those 4 states, right? So thus that particular state is called a suspended state. So when a suspended process is to resume its old activity, it should go back into the state it was when it was suspended. Let us say before swapping out, if it is in ready state, then it has to be brought back into ready state once that particular process starts its execution again. Okay, so I'll wind up this class here, and we will see one more state transition diagram in the next class, including the suspended process state. Okay, thank you.